Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome. We are in conversation with a very special guest, the Economic Affairs Secretary, Mr. Subhash Chandra Garg. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving time to CNBC TV18. Always, thank you. Always a pleasure interacting with you, sir. Sir, my first question is not going to be a very, I think, probably a very palatable question, or probably, you know, a lot of media sometimes jumps the gun, but nevertheless, I'm going to ask this question. Certain concerns are already being raised on the fiscal situation. Now we have the numbers in public. We have seen the CGA numbers. You have also commented on that enough. Right. But one or two points I will, you know, put at your doorstep, and then you can take it forward, which is basically certain concerns are being raised on the possible MSP impact, the Ayushman Bharat impact. Also, if you look at the GST numbers, sir, we are given to understand that there is, you know, there is still a revenue gap because you have a certain run rate in terms of achieving the targets and you're growing at a certain pace. As of now, the first quarter is just over. So keeping all of this in mind, and, you know, of course, the other question that pre-election year and, you know, expectations, you know, basically from the political economy. So what's your sense? Are we really comfortable as of now? We are comfortable probably, but a bit of concern, and we'll make sure the second half is, you know, accordingly taken care of once consumption picks up further.
I thought these concerns which have been actually expressed not now, for the last 4 or 5 months, ever since the budget was presented, are much less pronounced. The concern on MSP was far more, there was much lack of understanding, information at the time of budget presentation in the media, in the analysts, etc. But thereafter, I think everything has come out in the open. The government has actually adopted the principle of giving 50% cost plus prices. Those numbers have also come up that even if this is given, what does it mean if you make a 50-60% kind of procurement, if the price situation is like that, the government is required to...
We are not very clear on those numbers.
So, you may not be, but I think these numbers have become available publicly.
Yeah, but coming from...
I have also spoken about it. It's not that I've spoken about a range, the maximum about 30,000 rupees, ranging much, starting from, let's say, 10 to 12,000 to 30,000 crores, maximum impact. Given if these prices still remain depressed, prices don't go up.
I need to procure that much more.
And so all those things have been mentioned, understood. I think we have also discussed earlier that the MSP, as far as the fiscal impact is concerned, you make procurement for the Kharif crops in October, November, then those get sold much later in January, February, or even later in March, April. The fiscal impact is only at a time when there is a sale at a loss, right? So the fiscal impact of in the current year of the MSP is hardly anything material.
No, but there will be an impact.
Of course, 5-10,000 crores here and there is not a big deal.
Such a large size budget.
For a 25 lakh crore budget, it's not very much. And we have already a major provision in food subsidies, which are there. So
1.60 lakh crores.
1.6 to 1.8 lakh crores, getting 5-10,000 crores here and there for that is not too drastic. On the Ayushman Bharat, I think things have become much more clearer.
So they
have been sharing in the media. They put out
the numbers broadly coming.
Put out the rates which are being allowed to the empaneled agencies.
24,000 odd crores is what we're given to understand.
No, it's certainly not even that.
So then please clarify.
So no, I think we have been saying, we have stated maximum impact during the current year between 6 to 10,000 crores. That's and that also depends upon how much it gets utilized and all. So when it gets launched on 1st or 2nd of October, the impact on the fiscal side this year is not that. So on the GST which you mentioned, the build-up on the GST revenues is very good. We have a certain rate at which it should average during the year. I think the consumption is growing. The economic is on a very high, good growth path once again. And I think there is a reasonable expectation that we should be able to move to meet our revenue targets. Right. And therefore, concern on fiscal side, expenditure, you've not seen any such announcements other than what was made in the budget, which has very large expenditure implications. This is the government which has been extremely cautious on taking only those programs which are fundamentally sound and not so-called populist program and all. And the results of the first quarter are there for everyone to see. We have larger expenditure, we have larger revenue, we have smaller fiscal deficit, and things are completely on track. July is no different. And as you go along, I think I have complete confidence that our fiscal turnout would not be at all. Somewhere I have even said that not even a rupee more than what we have fiscal deficit targeted. So it's very sound, it's very well managed. Right, there is no real cause of concern.
Right, sir. So just a very quick question here again on the GST front. We are given to understand that possibly 1.03 to 1.05 GST net is what the government is looking at, a happy positive on that side. But the average, at least in the first 3 months of the quarter gone, is around 95. It's above 696 now. I'm sure this pace is going to pick up. But that's the kind of gap you're looking at. There's another issue. The problem here is that we have given a constitutional assurance to states that we will take care of any revenue loss for your part. That is compounding at 14%. That's a constitutional provision. Right. So anything that is born in terms of a revenue gap, it's actually the centre's responsibility. So down the line, you'll really have to wait for these revenue numbers to go up further, sir, to make sure that that gap is bridged.
See, that number flows from the budget of gross GST collection of 12.5 lakh crores. That's what is averaged at this level. Compensation, even last year we could manage in the compensation which cess which was collected. Recently the cabinet has taken a decision to distribute excess compensation within the year, rather than wait
for the 5-year transition period. I think those amendments are coming in Parliament next week. Yes,
what does that suggest? That suggests that we are quite confident that there is no major worries even on compensation front. We would like to share with the states within the year itself, rather than keeping it in the public account for 5 years. I don't want to dwell more on this. I have said this. Revenue Secretary possibly would give you a much better idea about this. But going by the trend and looking at the historical perspective, I think we are on a
well within our comfort,
in a reasonably good situation.
Right, so very quickly also, I suppose the next Central Board of RBI is around the corner. The meeting's around the corner. The dividend, decision may be taken in that meeting. Now, when we got some 10,000 crores earlier in the last financial year, that was supposed to be an advance payment from the current accounts of Reserve Bank. So when this settlement now comes through from RBI, the next dividend payout, I suppose there'll be an adjustment.
Of course, that's very normal. Like interim dividends are adjusted for the total dividends which are paid. Whatever is the total surplus of the Reserve Bank, this 10,000 crores will get adjusted. But then you would have another year's interim dividend which can be thought of in the later part.
So a new cycle has started. A new cycle has started. Yeah. So, any sense that you can give us in terms of how much we have budgeted for RBI dividend in FY19?
That's in the budget number.
It's a combined number.
It's a combined number.
I suppose it was around 40-45, out of which 10 has already come through, and so the remaining part.
10 came last year, not this year.
Yeah, true. So to that extent, the adjustment will happen in the current financial year as far as your numbers are concerned.
It doesn't really matter, because what matters is what is the surplus which the Reserve Bank earns. I may put any number in my budget. Ultimately, what will flow depends upon how much surplus which the Reserve Bank has generated.
So I'm going to ask you one more quick question here, sir. Last year you had mentioned about the new economic capital framework that RBI was trying to build, and some 12 to 13 odd thousand crores they had kept aside for their buffer. So has that issue been resolved, or is it still under discussion? Because earlier to those 3 financial years, they had passed on their entire surplus. Yeah. So, from last year onwards, I think they are trying to, evolve a different mechanism.
This issue is not reached its finality. Reserve Bank has adopted a certain kind of capital framework. The government has slightly different views about it. And that's what we are discussing. That's in discussion.
That's in discussion. Cool, sir. Right, sir. So also, if you look at the other part of your non-tax revenues, I mean, this is a combined number of 75 odd thousand crores. But, some part of the NTR will also come through your banks, through your FIs in terms of dividend payouts.
Right.
Banks are not in a very good shape right now. So, again, some kind of pressure.
Last year was very small. I think it was around 1,600 crores only.
Okay. 1,500, 1,600.
Yeah, it's very relatively, because banks' position, PSU banks' positions last year was not much better. So it's not, it doesn't make much difference in the overall 2.46 lakh crore of the non-tax revenue.
So how will you make up the rest, sir?
No, it's 1,500 crores, no? So it's not that much.
So you're expecting the same level even, yeah.
Right. So we have not budgeted for more than that. So this is fine.
Okay. But the overall is 2.4. So you'll have PSU dividends.
So we are, it includes disinvestment, it includes many other.
So if you keep divestment aside, sir?
No, so then you have to reduce from 2.46 lakhs crores this much.
Yeah.
Then there are other things, spectrum revenues and other things which government earns, interest income. So there are a lot of heads on which get subsumed in the non-tax kind of thing. I think again we should be. Last year we did not achieve our non-tax revenue target. This year, at this moment, I think we should be able to come very close to or achieve our non-tax targets.
Right, sir. 11,000 odd crores of receipts have come in so far. You think 80 is going to be...
This is better than last year's revenue which came in first quarter. So,
disinvestment receipts.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so 80 is not looking like a challenge.
80 is always a challenge. Like 1 lakh crore last year was a challenge. It's not to say...
But the B was lower, sir. I
can't belittle the enormity of 80,000 crores target. But we know we have ways. I'm sure the disinvestment DIPAM department will deliver.
Right, sir. So also in terms of, the one critical statement that has been made by Dr. Urjit Patel in the last NPC in the press conference sometime was the worry on, currency wars. Because of this trade protectionism, trade wars, and they may get converted into currency wars. What is the message for India over here? I mean, the governor himself has sounded this off as an early warning.
I think governor was basically commenting on the global situation. Thanks to what China has taken some measures. And of course, currency situation affect us quite a lot.
So rupee has been between 68 and 69.
So rupee did depreciate by 7% or so in last 6 months or so.
8%.
But it has stabilized. Last month now 68, 69 seems to be a fairly stable rate. We also see a number of trends now. Last month, July, happened to be the one when the FPIs turned positive once again after 4 months of substantially large outflows. That should indicate also, I think, the global players' confidence about the advisability of investment in Indian securities, Indian assets and all. So my sense is while if the global currency war does take place, it may not. He also spoke about beginning of this kind of thing. It may not, because world also have a self-correcting mechanism to take place. But I think, in our sense, we should be. Our situation seems to be not that serious and grave.
Yeah, I suppose because the statement also indicates that probably RBI is not very comfortable with any possible, future excessive depreciation of the rupee. I don't think they'll be very happy with that in 70.
Nobody would be happy with that.
No, because there's a flip side of the coin, because exports become that much more competitive, but that, I suppose that argument becomes very limited, in the medium to long term.
It's very difficult to say that there is a one-to-one relationship or elasticity of export can be related to the evidence may not be that strong. So and in any case we have a large gap. So to the extent of gap, there would be an adverse impact to the extent the currency depreciates.
Large gaps in what sense?
You have $150 billion of trade gap, no? So if the exports go up, imports cost also go up, no? And it may not, as I said, there is no established elasticity equation for the exports growth related to currency depreciation.
Moving on very quickly now, one important issue, the SEBI has recently said that this 25% shareholding norm, the relief that has been given, I mean that has come to an end practically. Of course, the last date probably is sometime in the month of August. Have you got representations from various departments saying that we would like to seek an extension? I think the banks are already doing it. They've asked you for further time. Any other companies, sir? What's the status on that?
See, the basic trigger has come from the PSBs for asking for more time. It's the intention which is important. That the intention is that increasingly over a period of time, 25% of the shareholding should go in the hands of the public, right? It's not mechanics. It's not mechanical that you should do it in. The idea of putting a time limit is to see that path is taken. But if the underlying situation is not that conducive and doesn't make sense, it's preferable to do it over a longer period of time, right? So the policy is not changed, the objective is not changed. The government policy and the SEBI's policy is that 25% is the right kind of shareholding in the hands of public. It's only the timeline which has been changed. So as things become more and more conducive, or you use the means. So for the IDBI bank, it's more than 25% which has been going into the public hands. So over the revised period of time, hopefully, I think the conditions would also be appropriate. The reform would have also taken place, and the bank should be going to the.
So how many years extension? Like 1 year, 2 years?
It's 2 years.
2 years. That's what. Because 1 year, sir, they'll just take that much time to settle for NPAs, and then they will start looking at because a lot of bank boards are already taking decisions of FPOs or raising money from the market. So I suppose
it's 2 years extension.
It's 2 years extension. Right. So any other sector which is asked?
It's applicable for all.
Okay.
So when you change the notification to say that it's extended for 2 years, it's applicable for all the PSUs.
CPSEs as well?
Yeah.
The ones where DPAM will have to take some decision.
Right.
Okay. So when can we expect this notification formally, sir?
I hope it's already there. Okay. It was issued about weeks back. Must have been published.
The extension?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because the fact that SEBI will not give any further time was known, but we were not aware that
this is required to be changed by the government.
That's right. That's what I'm asking you, sir.
So we have showed that notification.
Okay. Excellent, sir. Excellent.
Right.
Sir, possibly last expectations of Q1, sir. 31st August are the Q1 GDP numbers.
And I don't think I have that number. So expectations, Q1 should be better than Q4 of last year. All that I can say, because if you take into account all the indicators, the Q1 should be better than the Q4.
So also one last thing, and this is a very different kind of a question. There has been some speculation about the CA's appointment. Is it possible?
What is the speculation?
Speculations like 3-4 people, the candidates are already there. Selection committee is already almost deciding. The decision will be taken very quickly once PM was supposed to be back from the Africa tour, which has happened already. That period is already over. So, but anything.
The facts. On 26th of July, Arvind Subramaniam left as the CA. Right. We had called for the applications. Last date was 20th of July. We have received applications.
How many, sir? Over 50, 60, 70?
We have about, I think, 15 to 18 applications. A committee is to be constituted. That is still to be constituted. Once that committee is constituted, that will take a view about the potential candidates.
So rather at least a month, 2 months?
So it may take less, it may take more, but that's the process, right?
But sir, isn't there a selection committee already in place which is headed by CAPSEC? So
no, not for the CA's appointment. We have always constituted a search cum selection committee in the department.
Okay.
When the last 2 times it happened, Arvind was directly appointed, but before it was headed by Dr. C. Rangarajan at that time. So there would be a committee set up by the Department of Economic Affairs, and then that will take the process forward.
When can we expect this notification, sir?
Which notification?
This one, I mean the setting up, the announcement of the setting of the committee.
It's in the works.
Okay. 10, 15 odd days?
Let us see. Yeah.
Right, sir. And most likely you'll be heading the committee.
No, I said some very well-known, established economist will head it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you so much.